I definitely feel like if you haven't been through it, if you haven't experienced it, then you have no place to talk about it. And I was really nervous about entering this program because Mr. Alex was like, this is your story about Katrina. But I always felt like I didn't have one because Katrina is not really my forte. I didn't really go through it. It's not something I can talk about from me. So I was definitely nervous.
Did it feel wrong to talk about it?
It felt like it wasn't my place to talk about it. It felt like, why is a 17-year-old girl that completely missed the storm is talking about something that has really nothing to do with her? But I wanted to relay the message that even generations after, years after Katrina, everyone is affected in their own way. Even if it's not as traumatic as like being in it and losing everything.
There's something there.
There's something there. Even if it's something as small as just making sure your phone is charged when you hear the crack of thunder, that's still a part of what people in my family and others experience in the past. Because if they hadn't gone through that, then that shapes how they raise their children, how we raise the children after us. It's like a domino effect.
I've traveled all around, and like so many parts of the country they do have their own regional specialties and things like that. But with New Orleans, it's like, we're talking regional, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's this set of dishes, this set of music,
Yes.
this set of restaurants, this set of slang. It's actually really intense.
People that are new to New Orleans is like a cultural bomb. It's just like, boom, there's so much to learn, so much to know about New Orleans that you don't find everywhere else. It can be overwhelming. It can be. It's just so much color, music, the smells, all the things.
Smells. That is real. That is real. Like the soil smells different.
Yes. Walk down the street and you just get, all 5 of your sensory details, they're just hitting you all at once. It's like, whoa, where do I start first? Where should I go first? It's just so much to experience at one time. If I'm going down the street in New Orleans, I'm like, okay, it's a little quiet. Where's the music? Where's the people chattering? Where's the barbecue sizzling? And it's just, when it's quiet, it's like, okay, that's not New Orleans at all.
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong. Because we're always doing something. We're always partying. There's always something going on. So when it's quiet, it's like, okay, something went down and it ain't good.
In the years that I would come back, and I would come back like every few months after a time, it was like one layer of that would return. So it was like, okay, all these restaurants are back. You're getting those smells. I would do stories with musicians. Okay, the musicians are coming back. They need money. They're trying to figure out what to do. They're trying to figure out where to live, but they want to come back. There were also people who did not want to go back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember talking to this woman in Tennessee, and she was like, I don't want to start again. There were parts of New Orleans that weren't great.
Yeah.
For me and my family and finding work. And I feel like that changed something too.
Mm-hmm.
Like people who never would have left actually left.
I think it's also just the feeling of having to start over. It's overwhelming because, you know, especially people that, you know, grew up there. I've heard countless stories from that week of how much baby pictures they lost, how much, you know, old cookbooks, even like, you know, the childhood couches you might have spilled juice on, like all that is gone. And just to replicate it somewhere else, it's not going to be the same. It kind of reminds me like, you know, when you get into an accident, your car is totaled and it's like, you have so many repairs to do. I know a lot of people was like, you might as well just start from scratch, but New Orleans is such a unique place and it's really big. It's like, where do we start? How can we start from scratch? Especially if some people are like, yes, let's rebuild, but others are like, there's no point. We should just start new somewhere else.
So can I tell you something?
Yes.
In my basement, to this day, I still have my emergency kit that I kind of keep because of New Orleans.
Yes.
Like I no longer live in a hurricane-prone area, but like everything's in Ziploc bags. You know what I mean? It's like waterproof matches
Yes.
and food and water. And my husband thinks I'm crazy. But all I can picture is those people hauling things out of their houses.
Right. It's just the what ifs. What that I think of the butterfly effect. Like, what if I didn't have this? What if I wasn't prepared? That one small decision on how you think it's trivial, but when it actually happens, it's like, wow, I needed that. I'm glad I had it. I'd rather be over prepared than under prepared. And I kind of got that from my family, because my grandma, her cabinet is just full of canned goods. When a storm's coming, get your gas, get your money. My mom and my dad charge all your devices, because what if that one battery percent that's left could, make a phone call that saves us. Small stuff like that could make a big difference in how you survive a storm.
Do you do the same thing? Has that been passed on to you?
Yes.
I'm comparing notes as people who, we didn't live it, but we're living with the legacy of it.
Yes, I'm definitely an over preparer. I have a bag, a pouch, a list of everything just in case. And I always say, just in case. I have it just in case. And there's always a time I would use it. There's not a time I won't use it. Even like I have a med kit in my backpack for volleyball, because you never know. You might get a scrape. And
so you're the kid, you don't just have a couple Band-Aids. You're like ready for a full on something else.
People always come to me if they need something. I feel like the Mary Poppins of the group. I just keep pulling stuff out of my bag.
Oh my God, Amari, no, you're too young for that.
I know.
Okay, I'm the one who's like that. I'm a mom now. I'm supposed to carry all the stuff in my purse. You're not supposed to be carrying all that stuff.
I know, but I just can't shake the feeling of not being prepared, because the time that I don't have, I'm like, dang, I wish I kept it. I wish I had it. So instead of wishing I did this, I'm like, okay, next time I'm going to be more prepared and proactive before something happens.
The other thing I'm weird about is, as you mentioned it, like baby photos and things like that. It's like getting everything in some digital form and like putting it in the cloud. And like the back of my mind is always, where is this? How can I save this if all of a sudden I don't have anything? Like, even power, right? It's not just having it in the cloud. It's like, oh, well, what other way or format can I have of saving things? Even though 20 years on, it's actually even harder to do because everything's digital.
Yes. And I find the authenticity in stories. So yes, you may physically lose pictures or books, but that's why I think the people of New Orleans is what makes it New Orleans, because we have so many stories to tell. And I feel like the stories hit harder coming from the person. So you may have lost it, but as long as we have the people, I feel like New Orleans culture is never truly lost. No one's stories are truly lost, especially if you're telling the story, it's going to pass on from person to person, whether that's generational or not. It can be stories from a random person that you meet in a local shop, and they'll be like, hey, I heard this from somebody else at the local shop. And the story continues to spread. That's how I think New Orleans culture is found everywhere, because we have a way of sharing it. We're very open about sharing what we experience.
You are. Coming from Boston, I was very traumatized. I was like, why is everyone so nice?
Yes.
Why is everyone saying hi? And why is everyone willing to share the deepest part of themselves in our conversation? I mean, Amari, like, I would say in those first 6 months that I was there, because I was living there, right? Everyone I spoke to at some point cried in the conversation. And I'm a reporter, so in fairness, I'm literally like asking them this stuff.
Right.
And it wouldn't come in the first 5 minutes, but it would come in the first half hour.
Right.
And it would always be something different that hit them.
We find connections in everyone. It could be a stranger. It could be found. We're very much found family. I feel like a lot of families down here is found. They're not always blood. So when we find that connection in each other, that's what makes us bond together.
I wonder if it's even tighter because I was looking at this research that said like 33% of people had not returned.
Hmm.
And a lot of them were Black.
Yeah,
Like these neighborhoods were smaller. You
right.
know what I mean? Like, I just wonder if it made people more tight knit, especially when you had so many people coming from outside of the state to live in New Orleans.
Yeah, I can imagine that must have been really weird at first, having outside people coming into a place that was so tightly bonded by people already here. So I know there's like a little hesitance to open up. But when you see that, we're all people, we're all here just to grow and trying to rebuild, recoup after the storm, the loss that happened, it made us connect because it's like, hey, you're not as different as I thought you were. And you always realize that at the roots, we are the same. Even if we sprout into a different tree at the end of the day, we come from the same place.
It's interesting you using a tree analogy because we're talking about being uprooted in a way.
Yeah.
And we're also talking about legacy. We're talking, that's a good one. What are you planning on majoring in college?
Psychology.
Oh, good. I thought for a minute there, I thought you were going to be my boss, but I don't need to worry. You'll just be my therapist instead.
No, I want to help. My goal is to help people who don't have this outlet to really process their feelings. Not necessarily a therapist per se, but writing is my outlet. It's my outlet to get those feelings out healthily. And hopefully I want to help people find their forte, their thing that they can run to when their emotions get too high.
Well, Abari, I think you're going to get there.
Thank you.
We've been playing one on NPR and we've gotten voicemails and emails, and I get text messages about a young person who spoke to her parents evacuating during the storm, her older sister being born 3 days before the storm. And I think one thing I want to get across about these stories is we didn't want them to be all about their family's trauma. We actually really tried to be intentional about that and make sure that all these stories were not just a reflection of what their family went through or what the city went through, but also to find what value that gave them, what strength, what resilience they were able to find from their family because of these stories. And so the young person I started to speak of, she speaks a lot about what home means to her. And this phrase that comes out, she says, home is not just a house, right? And that reminded me of how much people feel connected to this place, and how many people were reaching out saying, it was beautiful hearing this young person's story, but it reminded me of how much I feel that way too. I am inspired. I am reconnected to my community, my neighborhood, because I'm hearing that young person. And so again, when we pass youth the mic, they can do that. And I'm hearing it every day because of this project. And it's just something that really makes me feel proud, not just of us organizationally, but of young people like Amari.
I can imagine. It's interesting when I listened to all of the students' essays, I was struck by, in a way, how little they knew.
Yes.
I mean, obviously they're young people.
Yes.
But they don't know that much about what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually, that was going to be my immediate response to your question was, again, we were so intentional. We brought in community members as a transplant. We were very okay, we're not going to teach them about Katrina. Let's get some community members in here. We had the Children's Bureau, which provides counseling and therapeutic services to youth across New Orleans. We had them come and kind of help with our curriculum. And we were so how do we provide and make space for young people to feel safe and have outlets? But about halfway through the week, we just realized, they were just no, I'm good, right? And one young person was really struggling to write. And I said, well, what's going on here? He's like, I feel all this pressure to have a feeling, but he's like, I really don't know what to feel. And I've talked to my family. They met in Houston while they were evacuated. So it's beautiful love story. They're now married. And And I said, that feeling of nothingness, that feeling of maybe confusion, that feeling of like, I don't know what to think, is valid. That in itself is a story.
I know. Well, you know how we argue about our history. We're still arguing about the Civil War.
That's right.
You know, I think it's not clear people would know, like, how do you talk about this thing that is both a natural disaster, a man-made, you know, emergency preparedness disaster, an engineering disaster, a climate disaster.
That's right.
Those are all things that I think we still haven't even reckoned with as a country.
Yes.
And it's almost too much. It's a Gordian knot to try and get it out of the Katrina story.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Which has become instead a rebuilding story.
Yes. You know, the storm was one thing, but the systems, right? Again, before and after, I think those are the stories that could be telling, right? Like, how did they break down? How did they affect people? How did they impact? And how do those systems still exist today? It's something that we were trying to get across a lot. And we had a lot of organizers and a lot of community members who are actively not just trying to be part of this anniversary movement, but also be part of the systems that affect people every day.